The night I went into Stoneridge County Asylum, I was annoyed more than anything else. It had been raining since late afternoon, one of those spring storms that drags mud over every road outside town. Nate picked me up in his blue Civic after my shift at the pet supply store, and the whole drive he kept bringing up Stoneridge again. Everybody in town had a story about that place. Lights and empty windows, voices in the halls. Some kid's older brother swearing he saw somebody standing on the roof in a hospital gown. I told him all those stories started the same way, bored people and cheap beer. He tapped the steering wheel and grinned at me. Then come prove me stupid. I should have gone home. I was still wearing my black work polo under a rain jacket that smelled faintly like cedar bedding and dog shampoo, and I had a gas station coffee between my knees that tasted burnt enough to strip paint. But I said yes, mostly because I was sick of hearing about Stoneridge, mostly because I wanted to walk in, point at the cracked walls and bird nests and raccoon droppings, and be done with it. The asylum sat on the edge of town, past the old feed mill, behind a sagging chain-link fence and a stand of cottonwoods bending in the wind. It had been closed for decades. My mother remembered when it still took patience. She said the floors were terrazzo, and the windows had wire inside the glass so nobody could break them easily. She said the admissions desk had been bolted to the floor because one man threw it during detox and almost killed an orderly. By the time we pulled into the overgrown visitor lot, the wipers were losing. Rain hammered the windshield. The building stood past a cracked circular drive with a dead fountain in the middle, all stained brick and black window openings. Part of the front awning had collapsed years ago, and exposed rebar hung down in rust-orange lengths. Nate killed the engine and looked at me. 10 minutes, I said. Then I'm getting tacos, he snorted. Deal. We both had flashlights. Mine was a yellow maglite I kept in my apartment closet for power outages. His was a slim black Coast Light clipped to his pocket. He zipped the Civic keys into the right pocket of his hoodie. I remember that because I watched him do it. I don't know why that detail stuck with me, but it did. The rain hit us sideways the second we opened the doors. We ran under the broken awning, shoes slapping through shallow puddles, and squeezed through one of the front doors where the lock plate had rusted out. Inside, the sound changed. The storm got muffled, not quiet, just farther away, with the wind pushing thin whines through broken glass somewhere above us. My flashlight beam swept over an old lobby. A metal sign frame still hung on the wall beside the admissions window, empty except for one corner of brown paper. The counter behind the wired glass had collapsed in the middle. Plaster dust covered everything. Water dripped from a stained ceiling tile into a plastic wastebasket that had somehow survived all those years. Plink. 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 That was the first thing I focused on because it sounded normal. See? I said too loudly. Rain, trash, mold, the ghosts are underwhelming. Nate smiled, but it didn't last. He kept his light moving. Doorways? Hal corners. The stairwell to the left? Stoneridge had that old institutional layout where every corridor looked like a copy of the last one. Pale green tile halfway up the walls, room numbers in little metal holders, rubber baseboard peeling off in strips. The floor still had the speckled terrazzo my mother remembered, only now it was cracked in places where tree roots had pushed up from underneath. We stayed close together because neither of us wanted to be the one to say we should. My sneakers squeaked on damp patches. Somewhere deeper in the building, a loose door bumped once, then again when the wind shifted. I told myself that was all the strange noises were, pipes cooling. Water finding somewhere to fall. The building settling. Then I started turning around for no reason. Not constantly. I'm not trying to make myself sound dramatic. It was more embarrassing than that. I'd take 6 or 7 steps, then glance back over my shoulder with my mouth already set to laugh at myself. Every time, the beam found the same empty hall and drifting dust. We passed what had probably been offices and went into a long corridor lined with patient rooms. A lot of the doors were gone. In one room, a mattress had rotted down to the springs. In another, pigeons were nesting in a cabinet. Halfway down the corridor, I kicked something with the toe of my shoe and looked down. Paper, a lot of it. Patient files had spilled out of a busted records cart and spread across the floor, where rain from a broken window had dried and curled the corners. I crouched and picked one up. The folder was soft with age, the cardboard splitting at the fold. Inside were intake sheets, dosage notes, family contacts, restraint logs, dates from the late 70s. A nurse's signature in blue ink feathered into the paper. Nate leaned over my shoulder. "That's actually kind of amazing. Don't say amazing in here." I muttered, and he gave me a look because it was the first thing I'd said that sounded serious. I could smell wet paper and that old mineral smell buildings get when water has been trapped inside the walls for years. While I was flipping through the file, I heard a voice. At first I thought it was Nate. I answered with, "What?" before I even looked up. He was staring at the far end of the corridor. I didn't say anything. The sound came again. Faint, not a full sentence, more like a string of breathy syllables too low to make out. It seemed to move along the hallway instead of coming from one room. I told myself it was wind moving through vents. The place had miles of ductwork. Water in a pipe can sound human if you're already primed for it. Then a second voice joined it. I stood up so fast the file slipped from my hand. Papers spread across the floor. Nate said my name, quiet this time, and we both listened. It wasn't loud. That almost made it worse. If it had been a scream or a bang, at least it would have belonged to something solid. This was a murmur that kept shifting places. Near the ceiling, near my left ear, down by the intersection ahead of us. I caught pieces of it and lost them again. A us sound. A wet click between words. Breathing threaded through it. Nate cleared his throat. Maintenance tunnel, maybe? Echoes. Yeah, I said. Neither of us sounded convinced. We should have turned around then. Instead, we followed the hall to a room with a dented metal door hanging half open. There was an old observation window in it, the glass clouded from the inside. Nate pushed it with his shoulder and the hinges let out a thin iron cry. The room beyond had been used for treatment at some point. You could tell before your brain even finished processing the details. There was a gurney against one wall with flaking green paint and leather wrist straps split down the middle. A tray table had tipped over, scattering rusted clamps and glass syringe barrels across the tile. In the corner sat a machine with cracked dials and a frayed cord, the kind of thing no hospital would admit to using now. The smell in there was sharper than the rest of the building. Mold, wet plaster, old metal. Nate aimed his light at the gurney. "Okay, this part I don't love. Can we go get tacos now?" That was when the door slammed. 1 second, the wind was moaning somewhere far away. The next, the metal door hit the frame so hard the observation glass rattled. I jerked so hard my shoulder hit the wall. Nate swore and spun around, grabbing for the handle. It didn't open on the first try. The latch had jammed or shifted. I don't know. I just know his hand slipped once, then caught, and in those 2 seconds the room changed. The air against my face went so cold I could see my breath in the flashlight beam, not a little. Enough to cloud in front of my mouth. My mag light flickered. Once. Twice. I smacked the barrel against my palm and the beam steadied, then dimmed again. In that stuttering light, the corners of the room stopped looking empty. I don't mean a monster jumped out at me. I mean I'd flash the beam toward the sink and see the outline of somebody standing by the cabinets, and when the light dipped and came back, the outline would be closer to the gurney. Another blink, and there would be 2 narrow shapes where the wall met the far corner. No footsteps, no rustle of clothing, just the distance changing every time the light failed for half a breath. I heard Nate suck air through his teeth. "Open it," I said. He yanked the handle again, and the door gave way. We practically fell into the hall. The murmuring was louder now. It still didn't form clear words. It brushed past us in scraps, gathering under the ceiling and then spilling ahead into the dark. My flashlight kept cutting out for a beat at a time, enough to make the corridor jump forward in pieces. Room, wall, door frame. Empty nurse's station, something pale at the end of the hall. Nothing there when the beam steadied. We ran. I lost all sense of direction within seconds. Stoneridge had been built in intersecting wings, each one feeding into another corridor, another little desk alcove, another door with wired glass set into it. We took one left because it looked familiar, then doubled back when it dead-ended at a blocked stairwell. Our shoes slapped against the wet floor. Another set of footsteps stayed just behind the rhythm of ours. Not matching us, following half a step late. "Nate," I said, and that was all I had room for. He grabbed my sleeve and pulled me through a pair of swinging doors with round windows. One smacked back into my shoulder hard enough to sting. The whispers crowded closer. I could hear saliva in some of them now, those little tacky sounds mouths make when lips part. Then I saw the figure. At the far end of the next corridor, under a dead fluorescent fixture, somebody stood in a white patient gown. The hem hung just below the knees. Bare feet on the terrazzo, head bent forward so the face stayed hidden. Rain from a broken upper window should have been blowing across that end of the hall, but the fabric didn't move at all. My legs almost gave out. Nate made a sound I had never heard from him before. A thin noise dragged straight out of his throat, and we turned the other way so fast I hit the wall with my shoulder and kept going. Ahead, a strip of stormlight showed through the lobby. "Front doors," Nate said. We hit the lobby at a run. The wastebasket was still catching drips. Plink, plink. That stupid sound is still in my head. Nate reached the entrance first and shoved one of the doors with both hands. It stuck for a second, then flew open so hard it banged against the outside wall. Rain hit us right in the face. We ran across the cracked drive, through ankle-deep water, back to the Civic. Nate had the keys out before we were fully inside, hands slipping, breath tearing short and fast. The locks thunked down. The engine turned over on the second try. He threw the car into reverse so hard we fishtailed out of the lot and clipped a curb. Neither of us said a word until the asylum disappeared behind the cottonwoods. Then Nate laughed once, not because anything was funny. It came out sharp and empty. "Never again," he said. "Never again." I said. The heater blasted against our wet clothes. My fingers started to ache as they warmed up. A normal feeling. A good one. By the time we hit the county road, I was already trying to explain the whole thing away with bad wiring in my flashlight, weird acoustics, adrenaline, old buildings doing what old buildings do in a storm. I was halfway there when I looked down. There was mud on the passenger side floor mat. Not from my shoes. I knew the tread on my sneakers. These were bare footprints, narrow and complete, the water already thinning at the edges, one on the mat, one on the back of Nate's center console, one pressed into the fabric of the rear seat, leading into the back. I turned around so hard my seatbelt locked across my chest. The back seat was empty. Nate saw my face and asked what it was, and I couldn't answer right away because at that exact moment, from somewhere just behind my right shoulder, I I heard a slow inhale through a clogged nose. I still hear it when it rains. Not every storm. Just the ones with that same hard tapping on the windows and the wind pushing at the frame. I'll be at my kitchen sink or sitting on the edge of my bed with my shoes half off, and there it is behind me. One measured breath in, one out. Close enough that the fine hairs on my forearm rise before I even understand why. I don't turn around anymore. The first few times, I did. Nothing was there. That almost made it worse. Last month, I woke up to the soft crinkle of paper near my bedroom door. One single sheet lay on the floorboards, flat, yellow with age. The kind of intake form we found scattered in that hallway at Stoneridge. There was a space for next of kin near the bottom. My name was filled in there in blue ink,